Drodzy Państwo, doczekaliśmy się. Po 10 latach od pielgrzyma Terry Hayes powraca i nie zawaham się powiedzieć, że wraca w wielkim stylu. Rok szarańczy to książka sensacyjna na pewno szpiegowska i z takim twistem po powiedzmy 500 stronie, że się na pewno Państwo nie spodziewają, cytując pewien internetowy mem, żaden, ale to żaden się tego nie spodziewał, co tu się wydarzy. Coś Państwu powiemy, czegoś Państwu nie powiemy. Terry oczywiście jeszcze nie rozumie, o czym mówię, bo mówię po polsku, więc oczywiście się pochwalimy, że mamy nowy mikrofon i to jego debiut, tak? Przy tak szacownym gościu. Więc co? Zaczynamy i lecimy. Czy możemy się spodziewać, że Twoja kolejna książka ukaże się znów po 10 latach?
No, it's going to be somewhat faster than that. I am currently writing I Am Pilgrim 2, and the English publishers have written a contract that I pay very, very substantial financial penalties if I don't get finished on time. So they've got a whip at my back, and I'm going as fast as I can.
Jestem przekonany, że słyszysz to pytanie bardzo często. Dlaczego kazałeś czekać nam aż 10 lat na kolejną książkę?
Yeah, well, I could lie to you if I wanted to, but I won't. When I was partway through writing Pilgrim, my brother, who is my only sibling, came to my office and told me he had cancer and the doctors had given him 1 year to live. I'd been a migrant, part of a migrant family. Just the 4 of us had gone to live in Australia, so we were very close. So that was quite devastating news, but I was so far into Pilgrim I couldn't abandon it, but not far enough in order to see the end. About 6 months later, I had the unpleasant duty of standing in a hospital corridor in Sydney and telling the doctors to turn the life support off for my father. About 4 months later, my mother died. So within the space of a year, whilst trying to write a book, I lost all of my family. I didn't have time to mourn them, to even really go deep into all of that. But when I finished, I had the time, and I had a lot of things that I had to deal with. So I did. So I dealt with them, and I've got 4 children of my own, and I thought back of my own childhood and how brief life really is, and I devoted myself to them as a father. It maybe didn't suit the publishing industry, but I tell you what, it suited my family, and I never have one moment's regret about it. I can always write another book. I'll never get those years back with my kids.
Cofnijmy się trochę w czasie, bo o czasie też sobie dzisiaj porozmawiamy. Byłeś zaskoczony sukcesem pielgrzyma.
Well, some nights I go to bed and be convinced that I was a genius. Most nights I went to bed and thought it was the worst idea I'd ever had, and how did I get out of this, and could I repay the financial advances that I'd been given. So, you know, it's a roller coaster ride, and it's like a movie. You never know. You just never know if you're going to hit that spot with the public, and not just in Australia or England or Poland, but all around the world. So, yeah, it was surprising. Of course, I'm not allowed to say that because I am clearly a genius and I had it all planned, but the truth is no. It was surprising, but very gratifying.
Może nie będzie to zbyt popularna opinia, ale dla mnie Rok szarańczy to może nie przede wszystkim, ale też książka o miłości.
Yeah, definitely. In fact, it's very interesting you should say that. Insightful, actually. I was going to call it The Year of the Locust, a love story, but the publishers wouldn't agree. But yes, it's a love story between the spy, the denied access area spy Kane, and his very forceful and opinionated and highly intelligent wife called Rebecca. And it really charts their journey, and they're put under incredible pressure, their relationship, by virtue of the work that he does.
Jestem też bardzo ciekaw tego researchu, który zrobiłeś, związanego z pracą tajnych służb, CIA i tak dalej, i tak dalej. To wszystko, co tutaj napisałeś, na przykład, że oni są w stanie zmienić kolor świateł na skrzyżowaniach, to jest prawda?
No, of course it's true. If I say the CIA can do it, yeah, the CIA can do it. They're not going to deny it, are they? Another CIA. That's the great thing about writing about intelligence agencies. You can say whatever you like. If they deny it, everybody says, well, that must be true. If they don't deny it, say, well, you got that part right. Yes, they can change the lights of of traffic lights. Yes, yeah, that's fairly standard. Some of the other stuff is inspired imagination. But the guy who is one of the 5 most senior members of the CIA, part of the group that runs the CIA, he is halfway through reading Pilgrim at the moment, my first book, and absolutely loving it. And he's offered to take me on a tour of Langley by him personally, so that I can see even more things about it. So I don't think that he's saying that I got it right at all, not in all its detail, of course not. I think that what he's found is that the stories are gripping enough that you tend to skim over some of the inaccuracies. And at least that's what I hope.
A czy również prawdziwa jest informacja, że gdy szpieg zginie w trakcie akcji, to do rodziny przyjeżdża po prostu bardzo popularny samochód, wychodzi człowiek, mówi, co się wydarzyło, a w przypadku pogrzebu trumna będzie pusta?
Yes, that can be the case. I mean, often they cannot recover the body, but nor can they acknowledge that it was one of their deepest cover agents who was actually killed. So they have to concoct a story or a narrative that will stop there being further inquiries. So yeah, so I'm not saying just in that fashion, but there are very, very elaborate stories concocted. I think myself they would privately tell the widow or, you know, the person left behind what had happened, not on the mission, but nor do they want to expose civilians to some of the horrendous things that might have happened. I mean, you know, life goes on and the agent is dead. I mean, Kiki Komanara was a DEA agent, a drug agent who was captured by one of the cartels and tortured in the most horrific fashion. I'm not sure families want to hear all of that stuff.
Zastanawiam się też, czy twój główny bohater, który jest szpiegiem, jest szczęśliwy i podzieliłbym to na 2 etapy, to znaczy zawodowo pewnie tak, ale prywatnie być może nie, bo przecież nie może nawet swojej żonie powiedzieć, gdzie jedzie i po co.
Yeah, I don't know if you're married or how long you've been married, but I've been married for 35 years. And I don't think we've been happy all of that time. My wife's not too keen on my job on occasions, and I don't go and put myself in danger. I think it carries with it some sort of attitude of the truth about you know, love and relationships. And of course, she does love him, and she is aware of just how terrible the places that he has to go and how extreme the danger. She happens to be an emergency room doctor, and so she can tell a lot more about the wounds on him than perhaps a civilian could. So she knows that there's a bullet has gone through his chest at one stage in his life and missed killing him by the merest fraction of a centimetre. So she's very much aware that he, you know, lives on the edge. It's hard to contemplate losing somebody that you love, and she doesn't think it's necessary. Part of the book is about her discovering just how necessary some of his missions are.
Teraz pytanie filozoficzne, ale uzasadnione, jeśli chodzi o twoją książkę. Czy możemy zmienić swoją przeszłość?
Well, yeah, I mean, look, 30 years ago I stood in an office with George Miller, the Academy Award-winning movie director who directed a number of movies that I wrote, and we watched a document come out of a machine, and it had been sent from thousands of miles away, and it was printing out on this machine. And George and I stood there and looked at this machine and we said, what the hell is going on? How could anybody send a document from Los Angeles to Sydney, Australia, almost instantly, and we can read it? I shook my head and said, I don't know. And George, highly intelligent guy, and he said, I don't know either. It was a fax machine. Now, has anybody used a fax machine recently? No, of course not. These things develop and disappear, and one of the terrifying things I think that we face in our life at the moment is none of us really understands technology. Nobody understands how fast it moves and what it's doing. I've read a lot about AI. I don't understand it. I just know it's the future. So you ask me about, can we change our past? Can we perhaps travel into the future? I'm not willing to say that we can't do anything, because I saw that fax machine. And if you'd have told me 5 years beforehand, I would have said, you're smoking crack. But this is ridiculous. It happens. We're forever on the brink of something that we just don't understand. GPS, which we all have in cars now, it was designed for the battlefield. It was super secret. It was so the US could keep a very close watch on where its battlefield assets were. Now, if you'd have said that in the Second World War, everybody would have said, oh, yeah, right, science fiction, yeah. It came, it was developed for warfare, and now it's in all our cars, it's on our cell phones, and I can guarantee you in 10 years' time we'll all say, what was GPS? Who would ever use that? So I'm not willing to discount anything at all.
Czy sądzisz, że taka sytuacja, jak w twojej książce, związana z łodzią podwodną jest możliwa, żeby ona była niewidzialna dla nikogo?
Oh gosh, yes. Oh yes. Just a couple of weeks after I finished the book, the United States announced that it had lost a stealth fighter jet. The jet had crashed. They couldn't find it because they didn't know where it had been. It took them 3 days to find it. That's how good stealth is now. So what we're talking about, and it is the hottest thing in military science research at the moment, is cloaking technology, where you can hide a battlefield asset completely from view. So you can see the advantage of that. The Russians could assemble 1,000 tanks on the plains of Europe, and if you had cloaking technology of the order that I talk about in the book, you wouldn't even know they were there. The first you would know would be when the uranium-tipped shells emerge from the cloak of invisibility. It's Harry Potter. It is, but it's real, and it's happening now. And yes, stealth will be developed to a level that we can't even imagine at the moment. I mean, the US is equipping robotic dogs with automatic weapons, so that the robotic dogs, thank God they're not real dogs, the robotic dogs go into battle. Who cares if they get blown up? Who cares? I mean, most wars have been fought by a system of attrition. That's what we're seeing in Ukraine at the moment. Who can withstand the greater losses? Well, if you've got battalions of robotic dogs, virtually, and you can cloak your tanks, and you can fly fighter jets that are basically drones, it's not going to be a war of attrition, at least on your part, because your losses are going to be minimal.
Jedna z twoich agentek, z twoich bohaterek ma polskie korzenie, to znaczy jej pradziadek przyjechał do Stanów Zjednoczonych z Polski. Ty masz jakieś polskie historie w swoim życiu?
No, but of course, America, where I have lived for a long time, I don't live there now, but I've lived for a long time, has a huge Polish population, especially in Chicago. So I've met many people of Polish origin, quite a few actresses, actually. Joanna Pakula is, of course, Polish, and that quite a few models, not that I know any of them personally, I say that for the benefit of my wife, no, I don't have any personal connection, but I thought it was funny in the book that her grandfather had come from Poland, had washed up in Boston, saw which way the wind was blowing and decided that he was going to adopt an Irish name because, of course, in Boston, all the cops are Irish. And so it showed a degree of intelligence that I thought was very flattering for him, hopefully for the Polish people as well.
Pytanie trochę poza tematem, ale też nie do końca. Czy sądzisz, że sztuczna inteligencja jest większym zagrożeniem w branży książkowej, czy w branży filmowej?
I think it's dangerous for everybody in the world. No, I don't find it challenging for writers because things that work most effectively are things which are shockingly new, and AI tends to derive most of its power from past experience. So I think that if I was painting portraits of various kings in the world, I think I'd be in trouble. I think AI can do that. If I was Picasso, I would not be in trouble at all. I don't think AI could invent something as challenging and remarkable as that must have been when Picasso started to really abstract. So I think as far as writers are concerned, if you're writing jingles for TV commercials, yeah, I think AI will do a reasonable job of that. I think if you're writing really great books, I think you'll be pretty well off. I think as far as cinema's concerned, you know, good movies, really good movies, are the reflection of the director and often the writer's sensibilities, the quirks that they have. I wouldn't like to be a guy coding for the computer graphics that are used in movies all the time now. AI will kill that. One of my kids was very interested in doing coding. Thank God I told him that I was not sure about the future of that because everybody was going into it. At the moment, most CGI is being done in Malaysia, China, lots of very, very cheap areas because CGI can be extremely expensive. I think that AI will be able to render images on celluloid or digital now, completely remarkably. It won't be able to invent The Godfather. It won't be able to invent, you know, some of the great movies that we've seen. I don't think it'll be able to invent Alien, on and on. I can give you countless examples. But boy, could it render the images. Yes. So I think directors will end up, as they do at the moment, of dealing enormously with stunt crews and with CGI and that. I think they'll end up dealing with AI. And in fact, one of the world's leading directors, who I know very, very well, has just spent a couple of weeks in Silicon Valley learning all about it. I mean, really learning about it. And I asked him, I said, well, what does it mean? He said, I have absolutely no idea. I have no idea, but I can tell you one thing. I said, what's that? And he said, it's the future. We're going to live with it whether we like it or not, whether we understand it or not. So we might as well try to learn as much as we can. So it's a frightening thing, I think, more for kids, thinking up if they want to be involved in narrative storytelling or any of the creative arts. I think you have to be very, very careful about how you address that, which area you go into.